And I'm Nick Patrick. Of course, we'll have complete coverage of that trial in just a moment. But first, we do want to talk about the changes that happened today with the coronavirus vaccine. This morning, a sign of hope in Texas. Everyone now over the age of 16 is now eligible to get a COVID-19 vaccine. City and county leaders say they'll continue to prioritize most vulnerable, but vaccine supply is expected to go up. So what does that mean when you get your shot? Well, you're only considered fully vaccinated 2 weeks after your second dose of Pfizer or Moderna, or just 2 weeks after your first dose of the Johnson & Johnson. CEO of Sunset ID Care, Dr. Okachika Alozi, says two fully vaccinated people can see each other without masks. If you're fully vaccinated and someone you're with is not, you should still wear that mask. Unvaccinated people should also continue following safety precautions. Dr. Alozi says vaccine supplies should pick up in the coming months, and as more people get the vaccine, we can move closer to a life after the pandemic.
Vaccines are the way out. Vaccines are our hope. We get people vaccinated. We get 60, 70, 80% of our population, our community vaccinated. It's going to look very different this summer, and it's going to look very different this fall. I know there's a lot of concern and fear about the variants, but till today, all the data shows whatever vaccine you get will protect you against the variants.
And here in El Paso, there are currently more than 300,000 people that are pre-registered to get a vaccine. Local leaders say some of those people have registered more than once. You can register right now through the city's website, and you can also check the availability around the city for places such as Walgreens or CVS. Pharmacies will have availability as well, so make sure you check on those now that you are eligible to get that vaccine.
Meanwhile,
well, thank you. And the health department announcing another 4 El Pasoans died from COVID-19. A reminder that these deaths don't necessarily happen on the same day. There are also 92 new cases to report today overall. It is the second straight day now with fewer than 100 cases reported. Active cases went down again by 84. They're still above 2,000. You can find this information, of course, up right now at kvia.com. And in national news, Moderna has now shipped its 100 millionth dose of COVID-19 vaccine to the U.S. government. Back in August, the Trump administration announced the deal with the company to deliver 100 million doses. The U.S. has since ordered more. The pharmaceutical company says it expects to ship up to 50 million doses per month to fulfill its contract. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 67 million doses of the Moderna vaccine have been administered so far. Some new information here in Las Cruces. Police there are still trying to learn more about what led to a man to be shot and killed on Sunday. Las Cruces police just identified the victim as 37-year-old Ramon Archuleta. They say it happened after midnight at 1904 Picacho Avenue. That's in the west side of Las Cruces. Officers were called out for a welfare check. They say they found the victim dead. Investigators believe the man got into a fight with a man who had a handgun. Police say that suspect then fled. They're not naming the suspect yet, but anyone with information asked to call that number. It's right on your screen here, 575-526-0795. Let's go ahead and take a break from these headlines, give you a live look outside. I've got the maps pulled up for you right there, that wide look. We did have one crash this morning that caused some backup on I-10 over around McRae. That's a problem spot already, but it looks okay now. Traffic cameras around the city. There's I-10 at Copia, a nice central spot for you there where it's showing I-10. Both directions look good. All lanes open. No big delays there around Copia. Just watch out for some more overnight closures this week. That should be our only hang-up.
Nick.
Welcome back to ABC 7 at noon. For the third straight Olympic cycle, the U.S. men's soccer team will not take part in the Summer Olympics. Las Cruces native Aaron Herrera was among those starting for the U.S. against Honduras, where the winner qualified to Tokyo and the loser was going home. Well, Honduras was already in the lead. They took it at the end of the first half. This is right after the second half started. You'll notice Herrera actually passes the ball back to the goalie. Well, he didn't. It went right through the goalie. Oh, this is ugly. The goalie tries to clear. He did not clear it. That gave Honduras a 2-0 lead. U.S. would not recover from that one. They lose 2-1. Ugh. Ugly right there. Well, at least we can enjoy the weather. Madeline, I'll say that. At least today. I know there's a lot of soccer fans.
It seems like perfect weather to play soccer in, Nicole.
Oh, you know what? That's a good idea. Maybe we should
Yeah.
try that after the show, Madeline.
Couldn't
Get
be worse
outside
than-
and kick the ball around. The weather's going to be nice enough for you to
And
do
coffee
that.
stockpiles have sunk to a 6-year low here in the U.S. The cost of coffee could now start to creep up if things don't get any better. The deficit is being blamed on a massive shipping container shortage that's made moving anything around the globe more difficult. Brazil actually had a record-producing year when it comes to coffee beans, but thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic, getting those coffee beans from South America here to the U.S. has become extremely difficult. Even if the shipping container situation gets resolved, multiple analysts say they're anticipating a global supply deficit, and that could lead to chains increasing coffee prices. Not good news for those early risers.
You never want to hear that coffee's going to be more expensive. Still ahead, a new ABC News Ipsos poll suggests that more Americans approve of President Biden's handling of the pandemic than approve of his handling of the rise in migrants at the border.
Yeah, we're going to break down the latest on how that situation is evolving later today. All right, looking forward to that, Nicole. Let's talk about now vacation rentals, another hopeful sign for the economy. Travel sites Airbnb and VRBO are both reporting a boom in online reservations. Makes sense to me. VRBO, that stands for Vacation Rentals by Owner, is said to be off to its best start in a quarter century. Shares of rival Airbnb are now up more than 20% this year, following the company's successful initial public offering back in 2020. Airbnb's hosts have earned a combined $1 billion since the pandemic began last year. Meanwhile, Expedia's stock they own, VRBO, has soared more than 30%. Analysts believe consumers are just ready to travel and vacation again with the end of the pandemic in sight. Bookings for Travelocity, Orbitz, and Hotwire are also starting to bounce back as well. Good news right there. Let's keep with the travel theme here. Southwest now plans to beef up its 737 MAX fleet. The airline announced plans today to buy 100 of those planes. Now, the deal includes options to buy 155 more of Boeing's narrow-body airliner. Now, this marks a major vote of confidence for that jet. It was grounded close to 2 years ago, if you remember, after 2 of those planes crashed within 6 months of each other. 346 people in total were killed. Southwest Airlines only flies airplanes in the 737 family. Now plans to replace older models with the new MAX version. And internationally, London has recorded today zero deaths from COVID-19. This is the first time that's happened in over 6 months. Official data shows no register of deaths within 28 days of a positive coronavirus test in the region. Now, the last daily record of 0 deaths in London was reported on September 14th of 2020. The news comes as England's stay-at-home order was just lifted. COVID-19 restrictions are also being eased, allowing 2 households or groups of up to 6 people to meet outdoors. London's highest number of daily deaths was recorded last April. They saw a peak of 231 in one day. The region also surpassed 200 daily deaths in January as England was hit by another wave of cases. And what does this mean for remote learning? Well, it may pose more mental health risks to children and their parents than in-person learning. Nearly 25% of parents whose kids receive virtual instruction reported a worsened mental and emotional health in their children. That survey, taken during the pandemic, said that only applied to 16% of parents of children who were still in school. Parents of kids in remote learning say their children were less physically active, they spent less time outside, and they also spent less time with friends. 54% of those parents also reported that their own emotional distress was also higher. This compared to only 38% of parents whose children learned in person. A lot of numbers right there. Well, let's switch gears a little bit to that weather system. It brought tornadoes to the south, dumping heavy rain in Middle Tennessee creeks.
Those rivers overflowing. More than 100 people had to be rescued.
And March 29th marks an important commemorative day for Vietnam War veterans. It is National Vietnam War Veterans Day.
This is video of the military remembering those who died in Vietnam, with Vietnam Veterans Memorial wreath laying at a ceremony.
On this day in 1973, the last of the U.S. combat units withdrew from Vietnam, putting an end to one of America's longest conflicts in the country's history.
On behalf of all of us here at ABC7, we want to thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Stick around. We have that final forecast, plus a little bit more news for you. It's after the break. This dog now settling into his new forever home after getting attention for his shoplifting. We talked about this last week. He's about a year old and named Sisu. He repeatedly broke into a Dollar General in Dauphin County, North Carolina. He stole that purple unicorn that he's now using as basically a blanket or a buddy. Eventually, the store called Animal Services. The responding officer decided to buy that toy for him. And on his adoption information, the shelter says Sisu knows sit, lay, heel, and he loves unicorns from Dollar General. Well, now he's stolen someone's heart. He and his toy have found a new family. I am sure he is sleeping very well tonight in a comfy bed with a unicorn.
Here's the message I'm getting from that story, Nick. If you're really, really cute, you commit a crime, you get a toy, and then you get a new home.
Sometimes.
I mean, it sounds like the thing, but only when you look that cute.
Might pay. Yeah, you got to be a four-legged cutie like that guy. Nicole's coming up. We'll talk with her right after the break.